Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and today I'm gonna show you how to eat unripe cherry plums, but only if my hornets don't start bothering me. Yeah, this is a European hornet here. Well, let's go back to the unripe fruit. I'm sure most of you, if you grew up in a rural area, have picked unripe fruit as children and have eaten some of it. Well, let's try it. Yeah, this was an unripe apple. Phew. Not really good. Sour and astringent. Let's try some unripe grapes. Oh, it's too early for them. Teeny tiny unripe grapes. Okay. Same thing. Really nothing special. Let's try some unripe plums now. Phew. Nah. Hard, sour, astringent, and even a little bit bitter. I guess I'm too old to eat unripe fruit. Probably it's a children's thing. But let's see what we have here. At the base of this plum tree, there are some shoots coming up. Those are from the rootstock. So this blue plum has been planted on top of a cherry plum. Well, in this case here, the cherry plum already took over and there is nothing left of the blue plum. Same with this one. So I have two blue plum trees which basically turned into cherry plum trees because the vigorous rootstock overpowered the blue plum. And the third one where the blue plum part already looks kind of old and weak, so one day it will fall over and only those shoots of the cherry plum will survive. Well, so eating unripe fruit doesn't seem to be such a pleasant thing, but if you go to Southeast Asia, they use a lot of unripe fruit. Unripe mangoes, unripe papayas, unripe whatever. Umbrella plums, they prefer to sell and eat them unripe. Yeah, so I guess eating unripe fruit is a very exotic thing. Even if you go a lot closer to Turkey. A couple weeks ago I showed you what you can do with unripe almonds or unripe peach almonds. And here we have the cherry plum. And if you go to a Turkish supermarket, what I did yesterday, they are all selling those unripe cherry plums, slightly bigger ones, because in most fruit growing areas of Turkey, the season is already more advanced. And also there they rather sell unripe fruit of some bigger cultivars. Also, when you go to a Turkish hotel or restaurant, they might serve you unripe cherry plums around this time of the year. So what's the business with those unripe cherry plums? When we ate the unripe almonds or peach almonds, they had to be really young. So you can basically chew up the whole fruit and eat the green outer part, which you throw away in ripe almonds, the hard shell, which you throw away in ripe almonds, and also the seed, which you throw away in ripe almonds. With the cherry plum, it's a little bit different. So the Turkish, they don't eat any unripe fruit at any time. The peach and the almonds, they eat it while still young and soft. The cherry plum can be eaten when it's unripe, but the hard shell should already be hard, should already be hardened. Why? Well, because in the almond, the seed is of course sweet and tasty, while in the plum, the seed is bitter. So if you have a soft shell and bite into such a small and still pretty hard fruit, the shell will basically be softer than the fruit. You will bite through the shell and you'll have the bitter seed. So with cherry plums you have to wait until they are at least so much developed that the seed is hard enough. Otherwise you'll spit out that the shell I have here is hard enough. Otherwise, come on, focus. Otherwise you're gonna just spit out bitter seeds. So yeah, not my most favorite fruit, but up here in the hills even the cherries are not even ripe, are not really ripe yet. So this is one of the few choices I have. Up here the strawberries are not really ripe yet. Cherries are not really ripe yet. Down there in the lowlands they are already ripe, but up here, yeah, that's pretty much what you can get this time of year. Not as good as a ripe cherry plum, definitely not, but better than nothing. But don't click away yet. There are other things you can do with plums. Like in winter, when my grandparents and parents were cooking, they would put a few dried prunes, which are the dried fruit of the blue plum, into dishes, especially into rice dishes. And so you ended up with not a hard shriveled up prune, but a soft, nice candy-like thing which also flavors and sweetens the rice. Well, in spring it's quite different. They used to put the unripe cherry plums in a lot of dishes. I did not like that. I did not like the sourness so much, the sourness of the cooked cherry plums. Also, you had to be careful not to swallow one of the seeds, so I complained to my grandfather, and he said, well, when he was a child, like over 100 years ago, of course, poor Bulgarian mountain farmers couldn't afford lemons. They could afford to make vinegar, but sometime in spring the vinegar usually ran out, usually not because they did not have enough fruit to make the vinegar, but because they didn't have enough vessels to store it. And when the vinegar ran out in early spring, well, for several weeks and even months they would use the cherry plums instead. First the unripe cherry plums like those, and later some sour varieties of cherry plum to replace vinegar. And then when you had enough ripe fruit and could ferment them, you could make new vinegar. So this was the cherry plum, folks. A very versatile fruit, and a fruit that doesn't need any care, and it grows, if you plant it, or even grows as a feral fruit throughout Europe, from the sub-Mediterranean and sometimes Mediterranean climate all the way to mountain climate. Flowers and ripens every year, so even if you have years in the mountains where you have no other fruit, you will still have enough cherry plums. And then it has so many different uses. You can even eat the unripe cherry plums, and you can even use them as vinegar. So folks, just go out, try some cherry plums, and then write in the comments if you did like the unripe cherry plums, or if you even attempted to use them to replace vinegar in some dishes. And also stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the farms and orchards of Heidelberg in Germany. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.